First slide, introduction of interviewee.
Hello everyone. Welcome to episode number 28 of the It's My Job podcast. This is Jose. I am a transition student from Colorado, and my teacher, Miss Christine Dully, is the podcast facilitator. The It's My Job podcast features student interviewers interviewing adults who are blind or visually impaired, asking them important questions like how they use technology and how they connect with other people. Stay tuned after the podcast to hear how to get involved. And please, share with your friends and teachers so they can listen too. Our interviews were designed by students for students. Now for the interview. Carl from Colorado is interviewing Patricia Kepler. She is an accessibility specialist at the Portland Community College. She will tell us about the work PCC is doing to make students have an amazing experience inside and outside of the classroom. She is also sharing her experience with test recreation. Now, let's listen to Carl's interview with Patricia.
Next slide, picture of the interview.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I live in Oregon. I am an accessibility specialist for a local community college, and I've been doing that for a few years. And when I'm not at work, pre-pandemic, was very active in the community. I had a dragon boat team. It was called Blind Ambition. It was actually the first organized dragon boat team of paddlers in the United States, and we've been around since 2002. But we have not been able to regather, so I don't know, honestly, if we are going to regather at this point. But we've traveled all over the country, competing in dragon boat festivals. I've also worked on the Access Recreation Project here in Oregon, which assessed trails for accessibilities with our local parks. I just love being outdoors and finding every opportunity to get out there and make sure our community is accessible and inclusive for people with disabilities.
I hear you. I've had this lifelong dream of being an advocate for people with disabilities, so that means a lot.
Oh, good.
Do you have a TBI at school? And if so, what do you wish your TBI would have taught you?
I did not. I actually lost my vision just a couple weeks before my high school graduation. So I went from being nearsighted with contact lenses to I had retina detachments and lost both my vision in both of my eyes right before. So no, I did not have a transition instructor at that point.
Tell us a little bit about your current job.
Sure. My job is amazing. I love my job. We have a great director of our department who recognizes that disability is a lot more than just about accommodations in the classroom, that students attending our college need to feel welcome and be included at all levels. So we not only need to make our buildings accessible, we need to make sure digital environment, that everything, all those materials are accessible. Part of going to school is that interaction, that social interaction piece. So we work to make sure that the softer things are taken care of too. I chair a committee on accessible college culture, which addresses those attitudinal barriers so many of us experience. And I conduct workshops and educate our staff and faculty about how, a heavy side, just that feeling or that expression of being inconvenienced by someone, how that can negatively impact their experience at PCC. I also we've organized some student leaders. So it's so important for our students to be included and be out there and active and let us know where those barriers are, right? We've organized several student leaders to work on different projects. And this, as isolating as the pandemic has been, this has been such a busy time for them. And just so much fun. We have organized these monthly virtual town halls where our disabled students come together and talk about the issues that are concerning them, things that they want to do something about, things they want to learn more about. So those are meeting every month. We have one of our student leaders is organizing what she's calling the Accessibility First Job Fair, where we're bringing together local employers. And it's going to be a week-long event, and we're going to be conducting workshops for employers, educating them about employing people with disabilities, as well as conducting workshops for our students on interview prep, resume building, connecting with LinkedIn, all of that stuff. So we're very excited about that. So yeah, we've been just doing all kinds of different things like that. It's been a lot of fun. It's been great getting to know my students.
Can you explain what the ADA is a little more, please?
Sure. Sure. The Americans with Disabilities Act was passed in 1990, and it guarantees access for people with disabilities in public buildings, access to education, access to work. So it's several different levels. There's different parts. But on the West Coast or in the Northwest, we have the Northwest ADA Center. There are regionally ADA Center phone numbers that you can call. If you have any kind of a problem, you can contact them. If it's a workplace ADA problem, you can contact your Office of Bureau of Labor and Industry at the state. And then all states also have a disability rights organization. So those are the three main services that I would reach out to. On a more maybe systems advocacy level, a lot of the Centers for Independent Living also, they have advocacy programs and connections that can help a person address a barrier that they're wanting to look at. Being involved in the community, your local transportation service should have committees to address accessibility barriers. I actually serve on our bus services committee on accessible transportation. We take on a lot of those. We have public comment and address a lot of those concerns every month. And as a college, we need to make sure that we meet the law. We need to make sure, like I said earlier, that our students have access to our facilities, that they have access to the technology, especially right now during the pandemic. Our students need to be able to attend virtual classes, and they can participate in other ways, like, in the theater or in sports or, whatever programs they want to participate at the school.
Is the ADA applicable to online environment?
Yes, it is. And again, we've been working very hard with that. Right now, most of our classes are being taught through Zoom, and we've done things like, provide transcripts or notes for those classes. So many of our students have barriers for taking notes, or maybe virtual in-class aids. We've been working very hard to figure out how to make that all work. Still, with the school's other services like online tutoring, we've been developing different ways to make sure our students can access every aspect of the college as far as the virtual classrooms and programs and services.
What are the steps to notify in ADA issues in a physical and an online environment?
So, what's interesting is that it depends on the disability. For some of our students, they have rejoiced in the virtual environment. It has made things so much easier for them because they might have Portland is actually a pretty big area and lots of traffic like everywhere. So the energy to get to class or even to access buses to get to class, those were barriers for a lot of students. So being able to just sign on at home and take a class has been just amazing. But then there's others that need that structure, that need to get out of the house, that need to get there. So that's been harder on them. Specifically at PCC, we've developed an accessibility council. There's an online form that if anybody has any kind of an access barrier, they can just quickly fill that out. We have 3 subcommittees to the Access Council. We have the Built Environment Committee that addresses all those physical barriers, a building, the learning garden. We have shuttle services. So if anyone's having any problems with the buses, we also have the technology, the Digital Environment Committee, which talks about use D2L, Desire to Learn, as our online platform. So if there's any problems with that, or textbooks or any of those things, they address those pieces. And then, as I said earlier, the Committee on Accessible College Culture, which addresses those attitudinal barriers so many people face.
Outside of your college, how long is the ADA process and what's the steps?
To get services with my college that we have on our page, the Disability Services page, there's a very quick form. It says getting started, and students just fill it out, put out the information. They let us, give us their contact information. There's an option in the form for them to actually go ahead and schedule a meeting with one of us. Then, they'll meet with one of the practitioners and we'll talk about the barriers they're experiencing in the classroom. And again, this is a very progressive process with us. We put as much weight on the personal experience of the student as we do on the documentation. So a lot of times students will have difficulty getting documentation, especially because these are adults. They might not have health insurance. They may not have seen a doctor in a while, but they've had this lifelong disability and they don't know how to get those records. So we will actually talk to them, we'll get their firsthand experience, and we'll help them find their records. If they've never been diagnosed with a disability, we actually have funds available to send them for learning disability testing. So we can help with that.
What are the most common accommodations that they provide at the Portland Community College?
So, the most commonly requested accommodation would be extended time for testing. I think that's a pretty big cross disability. People with, maybe disabilities with their writing or vision might need more time to access it. People with test anxiety need more time. So that's probably our most common one. We also provide accommodations for alternative texts for people that the print copies is just really hard for them. We use a number of tools to help students with different reading disabilities and then different types of note-taking.
What is the process of getting these accommodations for their classes?
As I said, we have a quick form on our disability services site where you just go in and you fill it out and you can set an appointment to meet with one of us. And then we have that meeting and talk through the services and how to offer them.
What are the requirements for your job and how long have you been in this career?
So I started working at PCC almost 5 years ago. And the requirement for my level of position as an accessibility specialist is at least a bachelor's degree and experience working with people with disability. As an accessibility specialist, you need familiarity with the technology. So I use tools like the JAWS screen reader, Read and Write, which is a tool for helping students with reading and writing, learning disabilities, Zoom text for, it's just a wide variety. We use a lot of smart pens for students that might have note-taking barriers. So anyway, I need to be familiar with those so I can teach our students how to use them and also educate our staff and faculty about the use of these tools in their classrooms.
What is the most enjoyable part of your job?
I love working with my students. I really have had a blast. Another project that I worked on the last couple of years, and this again was encouraged by our students. Our campus has a learning garden, and we had a student that wanted to be active, but when they tried, it wasn't accessible. So I've been partnering with the Learning Garden manager to create, we created new tables in the picnic pavilion that people could access. And now we're working on updating the raised garden beds and the paths to make sure that anybody that wants to get into that garden can do it.
What kind of information does this town hall share? And students are active participants during the town hall.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's one of the best things I think that came from the pandemic. Some of our students came to us and said, we really need a place to meet and gather and feel connected. And so we started scheduling these monthly meetings, and then they decide what they want to learn about. This month, for example, we had a number of students that are really interested in travel. So we have an international study abroad program at PCC. So we're having a representative from them talk, but also there's an organization called Mobility International that arranges international travel for people with disabilities. So we're going to have both of those contacts there tonight to talk about what's available out there, what kind of funding, how do you get a PCA when you're, in another country, and information about service animals and all of that. So we're really excited about that. Other things we have covered, we've talked about ableism at school. Students have shared their experiences and talked people in the different identity centers. We have a women's resource center, the queer resource center, and the multinational center. And we had them come and hear the experience our students have had in those centers and work out a plan for how to address the marginalization and support these students in those programs. We've also had career services come and talk about different aspects, PCC, as far as preparing for work, how to interview and all of that. Things that interest our students is what we talk about.
Thank you for joining us. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm just really excited that you're doing this. I got to look at some of your podcasts when I received the invite, and I'm really honored that you guys have reached out to me. This is really cool, and I'm just really impressed by all you've done. This is super awesome, and it's really nice to learn about all these other people out in the community.
Thank you. I can't wait to get to work in the future to make the world a better place for us as disabled and make it more, I would say, accessible. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Newslight, how to contact us.
Thanks for listening to episode 28 of the It's My Job. Do you like to hike? Do you have a park or any public place that's not accessible to you? Have you ever thought that you can contact the ADA to make a public place or a web accessible? So, we love to hear from you. Let us know what you think. You can share your thoughts by email or our Facebook page. The email address is askitismyjob@gmail.com. Again, that's ASKITSMY job@gmail.com. No spaces and no apostrophe. Are you new to the It's My Job podcast? If so, welcome. We want you to know that you can find us on Facebook. Just search for It Is My Job. Each of our episodes is on the Perkins Technology blog. Check us out and leave us a comment at perkinslearning/technology. And finally, we have a YouTube channel called It Is My Job, where you will find all of our podcasts. This was our 28th episode, but we want to make many more. If you are a student who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be an interviewer, send us a message via Facebook or mail, and we will match you up with an interviewee. And if you are an adult who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be an interviewee, send us a message via Facebook or our mail, and we will get you matched up with an interviewer, and we will get back to you.
Next slide, credits.
We have a lot to be thankful for in this episode. Thanks so much to Patricia Kepler for sharing her time as our interviewee. Thank you so much, Carl, for taking your time as the interviewer. This interview was facilitated by my teacher, Ms. Christine. Thank you, Ms. Tully, for providing students with meaningful opportunities and to experiment with what you always tell us. You don't need sight, you need a vision. Thanks to Perkins Path for Technology vlog for the vlog post. Our music is from purpleplanet.com. We hope that this podcast is becoming a great opportunity to learn from each other and increase awareness about all the amazing jobs that are being done by people who are blind or visually impaired.